Poverty does not always begin with a lack of money. More often, it begins with a pattern of thinking, a quiet set of habits repeated daily without awareness. Stoicism teaches that what we repeatedly do shapes who we become, and what we become shapes what we attract. If your mind is disordered, your life will reflect that disorder. If your habits weaken your discipline, your results will mirror that weakness. This message is not to condemn, but to awaken. Because once you see clearly, you gain the power to change everything. One of the most dangerous habits is living without intention. When your days are driven by impulse instead of purpose, you slowly drift into a life you never chose. Time becomes wasted on distractions, and opportunities pass unnoticed. The Stoics believe that every moment is a chance to act with purpose. When you wake up each morning without a clear direction, you surrender your power to circumstances. But when you decide your actions in advance, you begin to take control of your future. Another silent destroyer is the habit of blaming others. It feels easier to point at the economy, your background, or the people around you. But Stoicism reminds us that power lies only in what we can control. The more you blame, the less responsibility you take. And the less responsibility you take, the less change you create. When you accept full ownership of your life, even your failures become tools for growth instead of excuses for stagnation. There is also the habit of chasing comfort over growth. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it weakens your ability to endure challenges. Growth, on the other hand, requires discomfort. It requires effort, discipline, and sometimes sacrifice. When you constantly choose the easy path, you train your mind to avoid struggle. And without struggle, there is no progress. The Stoics embraced hardship because they understood that strength is forged through resistance. A lack of discipline quietly drains potential. Discipline is not about restriction, it is about freedom. When you control your actions, you gain control over your outcomes. Without discipline, money is wasted, time is lost, and energy is scattered. Small daily decisions repeated over time shape your entire life. The Stoic approach is simple. Do what must be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. Especially when you don't feel like doing it. Another habit that invites poverty is neglecting learning. When you stop learning, you stop growing. The world continues to move forward, but you remain in the same place. Knowledge opens doors, creates opportunities, and sharpens your judgment. The Stoics valued wisdom above all else because it guides every decision. Reading, reflecting, and improving your understanding of the world is not optional if you want to change your life. It is essential. The habit of comparing yourself to others can also poison your progress. When you constantly look at what others have, you lose focus on what you can build. Comparison breeds envy, and envy drains motivation. Stoicism teaches that your path is your own. Your only true competition is the person you were yesterday. When you focus on your own growth, you move forward. When you focus on others, you become stuck. There is also the habit of ignoring long-term consequences. Many people make decisions based only on what feels good now, but every action carries a future cost or reward. Spending without thinking, wasting time, avoiding responsibility, these choices may seem small, but they accumulate. The Stoics always ask themselves, what will this lead to? When you begin to think long-term, your decisions become wiser, and your life begins to change. Another overlooked habit is surrounding yourself with negativity. The people around you influence your mindset more than you realize. If you are constantly around those who complain, avoid responsibility, or lack ambition, their mindset will slowly become yours. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of choosing your environment wisely. Seek those who challenge you, inspire you, and push you toward growth. Your circle shapes your standards. Gratitude is often underestimated, yet its absence creates a mindset of lack. When you focus only on what you don't have, you reinforce a feeling of poverty, regardless of your actual situation. Gratitude shifts your perspective. It allows you to see opportunities instead of limitations. The Stoics practiced gratitude daily, not because their lives were perfect, but because it strengthened their resilience and clarity. Consistency is where most people fail. They start with motivation, but they do not continue with discipline. Real change does not come from occasional effort. It comes from repeated action over time. The Stoics believed in steady progress, not sudden transformation. Even the smallest positive habit, practiced daily, can completely reshape your life. But inconsistency keeps you trapped in cycles of starting and stopping without real results. Self-doubt is another habit that quietly destroys potential. When you constantly question your ability, you hesitate to act. Opportunities are missed, not because you lack talent, but because you lack belief. Stoicism teaches that your thoughts shape your reality. If you believe you cannot succeed, your actions will reflect that belief. But when you train your mind to focus on what is possible, you begin to move differently. Avoiding responsibility in difficult moments is a habit that keeps many people stuck. It is easy to act when things are convenient, but true growth happens when things are hard. The Stoics prepared themselves mentally for challenges. They expected difficulties and chose to face them with strength. When you stop avoiding challenges and start confronting them, you build resilience and confidence. Another destructive pattern is living without self-reflection. If you never pause to examine your actions, you repeat the same mistakes. Reflection allows you to learn, adjust, and improve. The Stoics practiced daily reflection, asking themselves what they did well and where they could improve. This habit creates awareness, and awareness is the first step toward change. The habit of procrastination quietly steals your future. Every time you delay what needs to be done, you push your progress further away. Time is the most valuable resource you have, yet it is often wasted on things that do not matter. The Stoics valued time deeply because they understood its importance. When you begin to treat time with respect, your actions become more focused and intentional. Fear of failure is another barrier that holds many people back. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process. The Stoics saw failure as an opportunity to learn and grow. When you stop fearing failure, you free yourself to take action, and action is the only path to change. Building a better life begins with changing your habits. It is not about overnight transformation, but about daily improvement. Every small decision matters. Every choice shapes your future. When you align your actions with discipline, responsibility, and purpose, you begin to move away from poverty and toward growth. If this message has opened your eyes and challenged your thinking, then take the next step. Apply what you have learned. And most importantly, continue to feed your mind with wisdom that strengthens you daily. Subscribe to this channel to get more powerful insights like this. Your transformation begins with what you choose to hear, think, and do every single day. Many people underestimate the power of their daily environment. What you see, hear, and engage with every day slowly shapes your beliefs and actions. If your environment is filled with distractions, negativity, and low standards, it becomes difficult to rise above it. Stoicism teaches that while you may not control everything around you, you can control what you allow into your mind. Protect your focus. Be intentional about what you watch, who you listen to, and how you spend your time. A strong mind is built in a carefully guarded environment. Another habit that quietly leads to struggle is speaking negatively about yourself. The words you repeat in your mind become the beliefs that guide your actions. When you constantly say, "I can't," or "I'm not good enough," you begin to act in ways that make those statements true. The Stoics understood the power of inner dialogue. They trained themselves to think with clarity and strength. Replace weak thoughts with disciplined ones. Speak to yourself in a way that builds you, not breaks you. There is also the habit of ignoring small responsibilities. It may seem harmless to overlook little tasks, to delay simple actions, or to avoid minor duties. But over time, these small acts of neglect accumulate into larger problems. A life of order is built on attention to detail. The Stoics believe that excellence is not found in grand gestures, but in consistent small actions done well. When you take care of the little things, the bigger things begin to take care of themselves. Many people fall into the trap of seeking quick results. They want immediate success without enduring the process required to achieve it. This mindset leads to frustration and disappointment. Real growth is slow, steady, and often uncomfortable. Stoicism teaches patience. It reminds us that anything worthwhile takes time to build. When you shift your focus from instant results to long-term progress, you develop resilience and persistence. Another damaging habit is avoiding silence. In a world full of noise, many people are afraid to be alone with their thoughts. They constantly seek distraction to escape reflection, but silence is where clarity is found. The Stoics valued moments of stillness because they allowed them to think deeply and understand themselves. When you spend time in silence, you begin to see your habits, your patterns, and your direction more clearly. The habit of reacting emotionally to everything can also hold you back. When every challenge triggers frustration, anger, or fear, your decisions become unstable. Stoicism teaches emotional control, not suppression, but mastery. It is about responding with reason instead of reacting with impulse. When you control your emotions, you make better decisions, and better decisions lead to better outcomes. There is also the habit of undervaluing your time. Many people spend hours on activities that bring no real value to their lives. They scroll endlessly, engage in meaningless conversations, or delay important tasks. Time, once lost, cannot be recovered. The Stoics treated time as their most precious resource. When you begin to see time as valuable, you naturally start using it more wisely. Another overlooked habit is failing to set boundaries. When you allow others to control your time, your energy, or your focus, you lose control of your life. Stoicism teaches that you must protect what is within your control. This includes your attention and your effort. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary. It allows you to focus on what truly matters. The habit of giving up too soon is another silent barrier. Many people start strong, but when challenges arise, they stop. Success often comes to those who persist longer than others. The Stoics believed in endurance. They understood that difficulties are part of the journey. When you push through discomfort instead of retreating from it, you build strength that sets you apart. Another destructive pattern is seeking approval from others. When your actions are driven by the need to be accepted, you lose your authenticity. You begin to make choices that align with others' expectations instead of your own values. Stoicism teaches independence of thought. It encourages you to act based on reason and principle, not on the opinions of others. True strength comes from within, not from external validation. The habit of neglecting your health can also contribute to a life of struggle. Your body and mind are connected. When your physical health declines, your energy, focus, and discipline follow. The Stoics valued physical strength because it supported mental resilience. Taking care of your body is not vanity, it is a foundation for a better life. Another habit that leads to stagnation is refusing to adapt. The world changes constantly, and those who resist change often fall behind. Stoicism teaches acceptance of reality and the ability to adjust accordingly. When you remain flexible and open to learning, you position yourself for growth instead of decline. There is also the habit of underestimating the power of consistency in saving and managing resources. It is not always about how much you earn, but how well you manage what you have. Small, consistent efforts in managing your resources can lead to significant improvements over time. The Stoics practiced moderation and self-control in all aspects of life. When you apply these principles, you begin to create stability. Another dangerous mindset is believing that change is impossible. This belief keeps many people trapped in the same circumstances for years. Stoicism teaches that while you may not control everything, you always control your actions. And your actions, repeated over time, create change. When you believe that improvement is possible, you begin to act in ways that make it real. Finally, understand this: your life is a reflection of your habits. Not your intentions, not your wishes, but your daily actions. If you want a different life, you must build different habits. There is no shortcut, no secret formula, only consistent effort guided by clear thinking. If this message speaks to you, do not let it end here. Take action. Apply these principles daily and watch how your life begins to shift. And if you want more insights that will challenge your thinking and push you toward growth, subscribe to this channel. Your journey to a stronger, more disciplined life starts now. Understand that transformation is not a single decision, but a series of choices made daily. Many people wait for the perfect moment to change, but that moment rarely comes. The Stoics believed that the present moment is all you truly have. What you do today matters more than what you plan for tomorrow. When you take action now, even in small ways, you begin to break the cycle that keeps you stuck. Progress is built in the present, not in intention. Another habit that quietly holds people back is overthinking without action. Thinking is important, but when it becomes excessive, it leads to paralysis. You analyze every possibility, every risk, every outcome until you do nothing at all. Stoicism teaches clarity and decisiveness. Once you have thought things through, you must act. Action creates results, and results create feedback. Without action, nothing changes. There is also the habit of ignoring your potential. Many people settle for less than they are capable of because they are comfortable where they are. They avoid pushing themselves because it requires effort and discipline. But inside you is a capacity for more. The Stoics believe that each person has a duty to fulfill their potential. When you ignore that responsibility, you limit your own life. When you embrace it, you begin to grow beyond your current situation. The habit of making excuses is another barrier that keeps people in the same place. Is another barrier that keeps people in the same place. Excuses may feel justified, but they do not create results. They only delay progress. Stoicism removes the comfort of excuses and replaces it with accountability. When you stop making excuses, you start finding solutions. And when you focus on solutions, your life begins to move forward. Another destructive habit is relying solely on motivation. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes depending on how you feel. Discipline, on the other hand, remains even when motivation fades. The Stoics did not rely on feelings to guide their actions. They relied on principles and commitment. When you act based on discipline instead of emotion, you create consistency, and consistency leads to results. There is also the habit of fearing discomfort. Many people avoid situations that challenge them because they are afraid of failure, rejection, or difficulty. But discomfort is where growth happens. The Stoics trained themselves to endure discomfort because they understood its value. When you face what you fear instead of avoiding it, you build confidence and strength. Another overlooked habit is failing to plan your days. When you move through life without structure, you waste time on unimportant things. Planning does not limit your freedom, it gives your time direction. The Stoics often began their day with intention, deciding how they would act and what they would focus on. When you plan your day, you reduce confusion and increase productivity. The habit of focusing only on problems instead of solutions can also keep you stuck. It is easy to dwell on what is wrong, what is missing, or what is difficult. But this mindset drains your energy and limits your thinking. Stoicism teaches solution-focused thinking. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I do about it?" This shift changes everything. There is also the habit of neglecting your goals. When you do not clearly define what you want, you drift aimlessly. Goals give your actions meaning and direction. The Stoics believed in living with purpose, not by accident. When you set clear goals and take consistent steps toward them, your life becomes more focused and intentional. Another habit that invites struggle is surrounding yourself with comfort zones that limit growth. If everything around you is easy, you will never be challenged to improve. Growth requires stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and facing uncertainty. The Stoics embraced uncertainty because they knew it was part of life. When you step outside your comfort zone, you expand your possibilities. The habit of ignoring feedback can also slow your progress. Whether it comes from your own reflection or from others, feedback is a tool for improvement. Many people avoid it because it can be uncomfortable, but without feedback you cannot see where you need to improve. The Stoics valued truth even when it was difficult to hear. When you accept feedback, you gain the opportunity to grow. Another silent habit is holding on to past failures. When you constantly revisit what went wrong, you trap yourself in regret. The past cannot be changed, but it can be learned from. Stoicism teaches acceptance of what has already happened. When you let go of the past and focus on the present, you free yourself to move forward. There is also the habit of underestimating small wins. Many people ignore their progress because it seems insignificant. But small wins build momentum. They create confidence and reinforce positive behavior. The Stoics understood that greatness is built step by step. When you acknowledge your progress, you stay motivated to continue. The habit of avoiding responsibility for your future is another barrier. Some people wait for change to happen to them instead of creating it. They hope for better circumstances without taking action. Stoicism teaches that your future is shaped by your actions today. When you take responsibility for where you are going, you begin to take control of your life. Another destructive mindset is believing that success belongs to others, but not to you. This belief limits your actions before you even begin. The Stoics believed that all humans have the capacity for growth and excellence. When you change your belief about what is possible for you, your actions begin to align with that belief. Finally, remember this: your life changes when your habits change, not occasionally, not temporarily, but consistently. Every disciplined action, every moment of self-control, every decision to improve adds up. Over time, these choices create a completely different reality. If you have listened this far, it means you are ready for something greater. Do not ignore that feeling. Act on it. Build better habits, strengthen your mind, and take control of your life. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful lessons that will guide you toward discipline, clarity, and success. The more you train your mind, the stronger your life becomes. At some point, you must confront a simple truth: no one is coming to save you. This is not meant to discourage you, but to empower you. The Stoics believed that true freedom begins when you stop depending on external rescue and start relying on your own strength. When you accept full responsibility for your life, something shifts. You stop waiting. You stop wishing. You start acting. And in that moment, you reclaim control over your direction. There is also the habit of underestimating the power of routine. Many people chase dramatic change, but ignore the quiet strength of structured days. A strong routine removes unnecessary decisions and keeps you aligned with your goals. The Stoics valued order because it reduced chaos. When your mornings and evenings are intentional, your life becomes more stable. Structure creates momentum, and momentum creates results. Another habit that holds people back is constantly starting over. You begin something, stop, lose focus, then try again from the beginning. This cycle creates frustration and prevents real progress. Growth requires continuation, not constant restarting. The Stoics understood persistence. They did not expect perfection, but they demanded consistency. When you continue, even after setbacks, you move forward instead of staying stuck. There is also the habit of focusing on what is out of your control. Worrying about things you cannot change drains your energy and distracts you from what you can influence. Stoicism is built on a simple principle: focus only on what is within your control. Your actions, your thoughts, your decisions. When you shift your attention to these, your power increases. Another destructive pattern is ignoring dismal areas of life. You may think that skipping small responsibilities does not matter, but it creates a mindset of neglect. Discipline is not selective. It must be applied consistently. The Stoics practiced discipline in both small and large matters because they understood that character is built in everyday actions. When you become disciplined in small things, you naturally become stronger in bigger challenges. The habit of seeking shortcuts can also delay your progress. Many people look for the fastest way to success, avoiding the process required to achieve it. But shortcuts often lead to weak foundations. The Stoics believed in earning results through effort and patience. The Stoics believed in earning results through effort and patience. You build something that lasts. When you commit to the process, you build something that lasts. There is also the habit of allowing fear to dictate your decisions. Fear is natural, but when it controls you, it limits your growth. The Stoics did not eliminate fear, they learned to act despite it. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward anyway. When you stop letting fear decide your actions, your world expands. Another habit that quietly limits progress is failing to prioritize. Not everything deserves your time and energy. When you treat everything as equally important, you become overwhelmed and ineffective. The Stoics focused on what truly mattered. They directed their efforts toward meaningful actions. When you prioritize wisely, you use your time more effectively. There is also the habit of avoiding difficult conversations. Whether it is in your personal life or your work, avoiding necessary discussions creates unresolved problems. The Stoics valued honesty and clarity. When you face difficult conversations with calm and reason, you create solutions instead of tension. Another overlooked habit is neglecting self-respect. Another overlooked habit is neglecting self-respect. Is neglecting self-respect. When you tolerate behavior that goes against your values, you weaken your sense of self. Stoicism teaches living in alignment with your principles. When you respect yourself, your decisions reflect strength and integrity. And this influences every area of your life. The habit of chasing distractions instead of building focus is another barrier. In a world filled with endless entertainment, it is easy to lose hours without realizing it. Focus is a skill, and like any skill, it must be trained. The Stoics practiced concentration by directing their attention intentionally. When you strengthen your focus, you increase your productivity and effectiveness. There is also the habit of neglecting long-term vision. Without a clear picture of where you are going, your actions become scattered. A strong vision gives meaning to your efforts. The Stoics lived with purpose, guided by their values and goals. When you define your vision, your daily actions begin to align with it. Another destructive mindset is believing that effort does not matter. Some people think that their actions will not make a difference, so they stop trying. But every effort counts. The Stoics believed that effort is always within your control, even when outcomes are not. When you commit to giving your best effort, you build character and resilience. There is also the habit of avoiding accountability. When you do not hold yourself responsible for your actions, you limit your growth. Accountability creates awareness and improvement. The Stoics held themselves to high standards because they understood that self-discipline leads to freedom. When you take responsibility, you gain control. Another habit that leads to stagnation is refusing to let go of what no longer serves you, whether it is relationships, habits, or beliefs. Holding on to what limits you prevents growth. Stoicism teaches acceptance and release. When you let go of what holds you back, you create space for progress. There is also the habit of ignoring the importance of patience. Many people become frustrated when results do not come quickly. But meaningful change takes time. The Stoics practiced patience because they understood that growth is a process. When you remain patient and consistent, your efforts compound over time. Another overlooked habit is failing to celebrate discipline. Many people only celebrate outcomes, not the effort behind them. But discipline itself is an achievement. The Stoics valued the act of doing what is right, regardless of the result. When you recognize your discipline, you reinforce positive behavior. Finally, remember this above all, your habits are building your future, whether you are aware of it or not. Every day, you are either moving closer to the life you want or further away from it. There is no neutral ground. The choices you make today will echo in your future. If this message has stayed with you, then you already feel called to change. Don't ignore it. Start where you are. Build better habits, strengthen your mind, take control of your life, one decision at a time. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful lessons that will sharpen your thinking and guide you toward a life of discipline, purpose, and success. There comes a moment when knowledge is no longer enough. You have heard the principles, you understand the habits, but nothing changes until you act. The Stoics did not admire wisdom from a distance. They practiced it daily. What you do after listening to this matters more than anything said here. Even the smallest action, taken consistently, can begin to reshape your life. Do not wait for motivation. Move with intention. Another habit that keeps many people trapped is living on autopilot. Days blend into each other, decisions are made unconsciously, and life becomes repetitive without progress. Stoicism teaches awareness. When you become conscious of your actions, you begin to take control. Ask yourself regularly, why am I doing this? That single question can break patterns that have held you back for years.
Also the habit of ignoring consequences until they arrive. Many people continue harmful patterns because the results are not immediate. But every action carries a delayed outcome. The Stoics trained themselves to think ahead, to see beyond the present moment. When you begin to consider the future impact of your choices, your behavior naturally becomes more disciplined. Another silent limitation is the belief that you have time to waste. It feels like there will always be another day, another opportunity, another chance to improve. But time moves whether you act or not. The Stoics often reflected on the shortness of life, not to create fear, but to inspire urgency. When you respect time, you stop wasting it on things that do not matter. There is also the habit of neglecting mental resilience. Life will challenge you. There will be setbacks, failures, and unexpected difficulties. Without resilience, these moments can break your momentum. Stoicism prepares you for this reality. It teaches you to expect challenges and face them with strength. When you build resilience, you become unshaken by temporary setbacks. Another destructive habit is measuring your worth only by results. While outcomes matter, they are not fully within your control. The Stoics focused on effort, character, and intention. When you measure yourself by what you can control, you create a stable foundation for growth. This mindset keeps you consistent, even when results are slow. There is also the habit of avoiding responsibility for your thoughts. Many people believe they cannot control how they think, but this is not true. While thoughts may arise automatically, you choose which ones to entertain. The Stoics practiced mental discipline by guiding their thoughts toward reason and clarity. When you take control of your thinking, you take control of your life. Another overlooked habit is failing to simplify your life. Complexity creates confusion, and confusion leads to inaction. The Stoics valued simplicity because it allowed them to focus on what truly mattered. When you remove unnecessary distractions and commitments, you create space for meaningful progress. There is also the habit of underestimating the importance of daily effort. Many people believe that big success requires big actions, but it is often the small, consistent efforts that create lasting change. The Stoics believed in steady improvement. When you commit to daily effort, no matter how small, you build momentum that cannot be easily stopped. Another habit that holds people back is seeking comfort in excuses. Excuses provide temporary relief, but they do not solve problems. Stoicism replaces excuses with responsibility. When you stop explaining why something cannot be done and start finding ways to do it, your mindset shifts from limitation to possibility. There is also the habit of ignoring discipline when no one is watching. True discipline is not about external pressure, it is about internal standards. The Stoics acted with integrity even in solitude. When you hold yourself accountable, regardless of who is watching, you build character that cannot be taken away. Another silent barrier is the fear of standing alone. Sometimes, growth requires you to think differently, act differently, and move in a direction others do not understand. The Stoics valued independence of mind. When you are willing to stand alone, you free yourself from the limitations of others' expectations. There is also the habit of reacting to life instead of shaping it. When you constantly respond to circumstances without direction, you lose control of your path. Stoicism teaches proactive living. It encourages you to decide who you want to be and act accordingly. When you shape your actions with intention, your life begins to reflect your purpose. Another overlooked habit is failing to build inner strength. External success can be lost, but inner strength remains. The Stoics focused on developing qualities like discipline, patience, and resilience because these cannot be taken away. When you invest in your inner strength, you create a foundation that supports every area of your life. There is also the habit of ignoring the present moment. Many people are either stuck in the past or anxious about the future. But the present is where action happens. The Stoics practiced presence because it allowed them to act with clarity. When you focus on the present, you make better decisions and take more effective action. Another destructive mindset is believing that change must be dramatic to be meaningful. In reality, the most powerful changes are often quiet and consistent. The Stoics understood that transformation is a gradual process. When you commit to steady improvement, you create lasting results. There is also the habit of delaying discipline until it feels convenient. But discipline rarely feels convenient. It requires effort, especially when you do not feel like acting. The Stoics trained themselves to act regardless of mood. When you do the same, you build a level of control that sets you apart. Finally, remember this: you are not defined by where you are right now, but by the choices you make moving forward. Every moment gives you an opportunity to choose discipline over comfort, action over delay, growth over stagnation. If you have stayed with this message until now, it means something within you is ready to change. Do not ignore it. Start today. Start small, but start with commitment. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful insights that will strengthen your mindset, sharpen your discipline, and guide you toward a life of purpose and success. Your transformation is built one decision at a time.